syndrome. Okay. So I told you, right? So any problem in that facial compartment causes increase in pressure. Okay, maybe normally you have maybe this much of space in the compartmental areas, means if any problem or any injury to the muscle causes swelling or that bleeding may accumulate in these spaces. So the pressure within that compartment gets increased. So that causes like a reverse effect to muscles also. The muscle tissue gets reduced blood supply. Because of that, arteries, nerves, everything gets compressed. Okay. So okay, so it is a very important sign that lack of blood supply causes ischemia, necrosis, all the life threatening problems. So you need to be aware of this rise in intracompartmental pressure. One more thing is, in the early stages of development of this pressure changes, it's like it's a symptomless or clueless. You cannot maybe the too much of pressure inside increased only you come to aware of that. Otherwise, mostly because of POP application and all, it feels like numb or kind of tightening effect. So the patient also ignore that mild sign and symptoms. Okay, so what we ask is, check for that rise intracompartmental pressure. We need to be very careful for that. Otherwise, maybe the deformity or maybe the death also occurs. Maybe like it is increasing. The pressure is increasing. It may cause rupture or damage, too much of damage to your tissues. The immediate measurement or immediate management should be taken for this type of pressure developments. Okay, so what are the signs you can expect? And we have to be very critical for how to say, we have to be very alert for finding out this raised intracompartmental pressure. So you can see for any swollen arm or leg region, maybe in the distal aspect, maybe it is swollen. Okay, so one more thing is, other one is the tender muscles. Maybe if you do stretching or if you do palpation, it's too much of pain, cough or forearm pain. And other one is the pain out of proportion. Okay, so it is like too large, like it is of out of proportion to injury. The pain may be too high. That is there, irrelevant to the problem. Or redness and blisters, you can expect some redness, numbness also in the final or how to say, the later stages of worsening, it becomes numb also. So we have to be very careful for finding out this pressure changes, the compartmental syndrome. It's a very important. So swollen arm or leg or tender muscles and pain irrelevant to the proportion of the problem, and redness and blisters. Okay, so these are the problem. Can you see the normal muscle and cross-sectional view? And if it develops compartmental syndrome, can you see the difference? So everything is enlarged, and then there is a great chance for rupturing. Too much of pressure can cause it leads to life-threatening situation. That's why you cannot control the bleeding also after rupturing of tissues and other things. So it's too critical to find out this intracompartmental syndrome. So what is the measure? What we have to do is just you need to do a suture, the vertical sutures to correct the problem. Okay. So like 2 long incisions on the lower leg, one lateral to the tibia and one medial. Thereby we can settle this compartmental damage. Other one is now we are coming to systemic, other maybe any abnormal pathological complications, any system related complication means fat embolism, DVT, pneumonia, septicemia. These are all systemic yearly complication. Everything systemic means you have to take immediate preventive measures. Okay, so or else it may block the main arteries. For example, when you take fat embolism, the fat substances from like bone marrow, within the bone marrow, you all know that it is a fat. Most of the fat is get stored in the bone marrow kind of thing. So if there is any damage to that internal bone, that is within that bone marrow gets disrupted, means the fat molecules get mixed with your blood supply, and thereby if it is huge in amount or huge in size, means it may block like your other blood clots, how it will embolize, how it will block. In the same way, this fat molecules also gets disturbed. That's why the yearly death in the acute stage of fracture, like in the large fractures, femur, the most commonly the femur fractures and all, that bone marrow is massive, so the thing gets liberated in the blood vessels, also high in femur, neck of femur fractures. So you have to be careful for preventing this problem also. Otherwise, if it blocks the vessel, accordingly your symptoms develops. Okay, so if it blocks any major coronal vessels, coronary vessels and all, it will lead to myocardial infarction. If it blocks any major pulmonary arteries and all, you can expect respiratory failure or respiratory distress syndrome. Or if it blocks any major cerebral vessels, if it blocks that, it may cause cerebrovascular accident or stroke. Okay, so this is very important. The fat embolism is very important to find out clues for that. And DVT also same, if because of lack of immobilization, immediately you have to mobilize the patient. Mobility with the walker or anything, without weight bearing, you have to mobilize the patient. Okay, affected side should be immobilized, but other things, activities and all, you need to start as early as possible to prevent this DVT and other problems. And then because of that, chest infections also common because of lack of mobility. So these two problems can be controlled by immediate mobilization or mobility or bed transfers. Whatever it is, mobile, the start doing movements. Okay, don't allow them for bed rest not more than 24 hours. Okay, so these problems, DVT, pneumonia, chest infections and problems can arise due to lack of movement. And septicemia, maybe infections, any bacterial infections can enter your bloodstream. Okay, this is also is a whenever I hear this septicemia and all, I personally experienced this. Like when I was in hospital, maybe like 10 years back. 10 years back, I was in hospital. During that time, it's a multi-specialty hospital. So we need to treat different conditions, neuro, cardio, and all aspects. So I treated a patient like passive movements, mobilize the patient and all. So actually she's having septicemia. She's in the early stage of septicemia, and but we used to have the proper precautions. We use mask and everything is there. But I don't know how, but I got infected Like immediately after treating her, I feel that I was like feel very sick, like feverish kind of thing. After that, for 1 week, I suffered fever, all the symptoms. Okay, like mm, really, I feel like my health, I lost my health, that kind of thing. So always be careful with this. Maybe they develop septicemia, means you're easily get infected. If you're less immune, or if you're weak, you're not taking nutritious foods, or less immune and all, um, you can easily get infected. Okay, that time I'm very weak, so that is a problem. Always take precautionary measures, as well as take healthy foods during this type of like clinical placements and all. During that time, you have to be very, very fit. Okay, so these are the various systemic early complications. And like I told you, fat embolism, whenever there are multiple fractures of large bones, that is the femur is one of the large bone, and if you get exposed to that kind of thing, or any crushed injuries and all, you expect that there is a bone marrow, the within your muscle cortex, you have bone marrow, internal bone composition of marrow tissues. So that is getting exposed, and in that case, you have it's a liberation of so many fat globules into the circulatory system. Okay. So that may block any vessels of any important organs. So we need to be aware of this kind of symptoms, that systemic signs and symptoms, like increased heart rate, respiratory distress, the kind of they feel breathlessness and drowsiness. They feel you need to know, because of drugs or tablets they are taking, right? Because of that also, sometimes this kind of drowsiness would be there, but we need to find out the other associated problems. Thereby we can prevent the death of the patient. And then DVT, we all know that because of lack of movement, lack of yearly mobilization, you expect this DVT problem. So lower limb injuries, lower limb fractures and spinal fractures, you expect this kind of thing. So it is also life threatening. All the four are life threatening problems. You need to aware of development of signs and symptoms, because twice a day they are the one who are uh, uh, going to treat all kinds of patients twice a day. So we need to find out that DVT and this kind of life threatening things, like fat embolism, DVT, pneumonia, and then this kind of septicemia. Okay, everything we need to be very, very aware of that, alert in while go for rounds and all. So causes immobilization, prolonged immobilization and fracture of the leg. These are the two reasons you have. And the symptoms like cough, tenderness, leg swelling. Okay, but it is not different from the problem, right? After fracture, normally we expect the leg swelling and cough, tenderness also would be there. So what we need to do is mobilize them, and like as early as possible, we need to start mobilize the patient. Okay, can you see that the difference between these two sides? It's swelling is there, and then you expect some kind of tenderness in the cough muscles also. So the treatment for this DVTs are active mobilization, yearly mobilization, and then anticoagulating therapy. Okay, so that is also to prevent the clotting. And then you have elevate the limb. These are the treatments to prevent DVT. And then pneumonia, like bed rest after fracture and during surgery. Okay, we are taking too much of rest, right? So that should increase the chances for getting pneumonia. And also they are bedridden and hospital stays. Other thing is staying in hospital for 2 or 3 days itself, you can get enormous entry of bacterial things like nosocomial infections. That is it is specifically the hospital acquired diseases. We have hundreds of hospital acquired diseases, so you are exposed to that type of things also. So we need to be very careful with dealing with this type of patients. So this is also yearly mobilization prevents pneumonia. And then the septicemia, I told you, enters the bloodstream. Okay, a bacterial inversion into the bloodstream can cause septicemia and life death. Maybe the person is going to die. And then we have, that's all about the immediate complications, and then delayed and then late complications. Now we are coming to the late complication, where our role is very, very important. Late complications means that is during the rehabilitation process, the rehabilitation stage, we need to be careful. Okay, so before that, in the DVT and other problems, septicemia and all develops also, there is no that important. Our role is not that important in finding out that, but in the late complications, you have to be aware of that. Okay, so a delayed union. So it takes longer than the usual time. Maybe for lower limb, it's 3 months, and upper limb, it's 2 months. Means it takes longer than that. Okay, we call it delayed union. So how we will find out whether it is it's a delayed union? How we verify that? Okay, so delayed union. That's what I told you. It takes longer than usual time. So what are the causes for that delay? Means the same reasons: lack of blood supply, okay, inadequate blood supply to that area, and then infections. Sometimes the soft tissue infections can be spread to this bony areas also. That is also one of the reason. And incorrect splintage. So abnormally reduced, you're like not in a anatomical position, maybe irregular or abnormal positioning, incorrect splintage, and insufficient. So maybe it is not that proper, or it is not that tight enough to prevent movement. Okay, it doesn't, the immobilization should be in such a way that you don't allow excessive movements or unnecessary movements. Mild movement in a very slight stress can be allowed, not more than that. It is not actually movement. A stress or pressure is needed, not a movement. Then that will help you in healing. But if it allows, or it is not too tight, or it is not too firm enough, then you expect a delayed union. Okay, or sometimes while you doing a reduction, while correcting the abnormality and all, what they do is they do excessive traction compared to the body weight. Maybe they do too much of traction effect, thereby it is like the gap is prolonged. The gap between the bony surfaces or long, or it's the gap is wider. Thereby it is also one of the reason for a delayed union. So these are the 5 causes. So in a lack of blood supply, the blood supply is essential for bony deposition and development of bone cells, and then the proper healing. Everything that is done only when you achieve proper blood supply. Otherwise, that it can delay that. Malnutrition, sometimes lack of adequate nutrition also causes that. Okay, so that is the calcium intake, the reduced calcium in your body, or other mechanisms, the bone mineralization mechanism also deficient, or vitamin D deficiency. Everything can cause delayed union, and bacterial infections, incorrect splintage, insufficient splintage, and excessive traction. Okay. Signs of delayed union. So how we will find out whether we are seeing the delayed union means, the first thing is the time duration. It exceeds the normal timing, right? For example, 3 months. 3 months is the maximum time period for the conservative treatment of lower limb fracture. That is stable fractures. It is a very stable fracture, and if you are giving treatment for that, the 3 months is the maximum time period. So if it is exceeding, or if it is not healed properly after that time also, you have to be very cautious in that. So sign is that's I already told you, the fractured site. The fracture point is usually tender. Okay. The fractured site is usually tender. You feel that some pain would be there when you apply pressure. So that is a very, very, how to say that? It is a valid sign. It is not wrong. It doesn't go wrong in any way. Okay. If it is like if fractured site doesn't have tenderness when you palpate, then it is like 90% of the cases you expect that the bone is healed. Okay. So checking the tenderness on the fractured side is very, very important. And one more thing is a movement checking. Okay. So you can check some mobility in that fracture site, the gap, right? So if you apply any mild movement, don't do too much of movement checking. Just you can check it, some kind of vibrations. You can see some movement is possible, or the pain is severe. Movement would be there, the pain, immediately the patient feel apprehension, the fear of movement or pain, also severe pain. And then the bone maybe you can see the some movements, abnormal movements in that side. Okay, these are all other confirmatory signs that the bone doesn't heal properly. Okay, so first thing is along with that you can have radiographic confirmation also. Okay, so x-rays need to be taken like immediately after injury, and then after correction, after the treatment, you need to take one x-ray, and then 1 week later, 1 week later, and then in between, if required, if needed, you can take one more, and then in the end of the definitive healing period, we need to take that. Okay, so along with that, you need to check the mobility, tenderness. Okay, can you see that uh, delayed union means it is not healed completely? Okay. So the treatment for delayed unions, we all know that the plaster should be extensive. That is, it should be fit and fully cover the proximal and distal joints also. Okay, so that is also one more thing, and the fit adequately, or that should be firm applying of splintage. That is also very important. Whenever you are applying it, it should be fit to the surface, not too tight and not too loose. That is very important. And so immediately you need to replace the traction. Okay, don't give too much of traction force while reducing the fracture site. Okay, so reduce the pressure of traction. Okay, so in children's and old age people, if you're applying traction, don't give too much of pressure or too much of traction force. And then we have nowadays, we are using functional bracing. Functional bracing is actually, it is modifiable depending on the patient's skin or size of the patient. It changes. Okay, so we can use this functional bracing also. Non-union. So after that, it is until 6 months, you call it delayed union. After that also it proceeds like that, or it is not healed, then only we call it non-union. So for 6 months after injury, for the continuous 6 months, we call it delayed union. And after that also it doesn't settle, or it is not healed properly, then only we call it non-union. Okay. So causes of non-union, the same delayed union, the same causes can be applicable to causes for non-union also, like poor blood supply, infection, and weak bone, and soft tissue hindrance in that gap or the space between the two fracture site. Maybe there is a soft tissue formation, or maybe after open fractures, some soft tissues may be interrupting the healing process, and bone loss, excessive bone loss. So one segment should be like they need to be like more calcification, more callus formation from one side. That is also imbalance between the healing formation on two sides may cause both delayed in union or non-union also, because 50% from the proximal segment and 50% from the distal segment. If there is an absence of tissues or too much of bone loss in the proximal segment, means the distal segment cannot compensate for 70 or 80%. In that case also, you can expect a non-union. Okay, injury also one of the reasons. Recurrency, like again some other injury, re-injury to that specific point also can cause non-union. So treatment, if it is symptomless, maybe it takes it can settle by itself or resolves, be longer than 6 months, but if it is symptomless, it can gradually get settled. If there is any tenderness or mobility, you are seeing the mobility and pain and fear of movement and all, then you have to do any surgical one. Okay, you cannot allow the healing to be continuous more than 6 months. You have to do surgical correction. And then functional bracing, that's why nowadays the functional bracing means it allows the movement, it allows some movements, and the exactly where we don't want, in that areas there is a restriction, we can use that also. Then we are malunion is faulty union. Abnormally it gets aligned, so the bone is healed, but it is opposite to the anatomical alignment. Okay, you can feel the bend, or you can feel some prominence, bony prominence in the shaft of the bone, like that. It is too abnormal, and it cannot produce the adequate normal functional movements. Because of that, malunion can cause hindrances to the normal functional movements. Okay, the reason for fracture. Okay, we'll do one thing. Okay, so we will end the meeting, and then we will join by 1:30. Okay, our normal timing, right? 4 to 5. Okay, is it clear? We will join with our official ID. Okay, we have only 2 minutes. I will complete it, and then by 4 o'clock we will start again. Okay.
Okay, Miss. Okay.
Because I have I don't lack of I run out of time. Okay, only 2 minutes is there. So the causes for this malunion or not a complete reduction. Maybe they go for any bone setters. Maybe they are not professionally trained one, or like that. They learn some in some families. They run this kind of treatments. It goes by like that in India and all. It is very common. They trained in one specific place called Puttur. In that thing, they are trained without, but there is no. They don't take X-ray also. Just with symptoms and signs, they give treatment, and there is a greater chance for malunion in that things. Okay, the fracture was never completely reduced. They may be abnormal. How the fracture occurs, like how the impact is, in the same way they may immobilize. So automatically it is joined in a abnormal angle. So that is the main reason. So shortening, maybe limb length varies. Okay, limb length discrepancy occurs. Maybe one limb is shorter. That fracture limb is shorter than normal side. It is both cosmetically as well as functionally. They are having a problem. Okay, so it is after